Kelveth had lived for 3,000 years. In that time, he had watched empires rise and fall. He had seen species discover fire and species burn themselves to ash. He had documented 17 wars, 42 first contacts, and one event that his people still refused to name. Nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing made his skin change, color without his permission, until the humans. He stood in his observation chamber aboard the Eternal Witness, a research vessel that belonged to no nation and served only knowledge. The ship hung in the darkness above a world called Velern 7, where 2 million civilians waited to die. The Cathari Dominion was coming. Everyone knew what happened when the Cathari came. They consumed. They absorbed. They left nothing behind but silence. The only thing standing between the Cathari and Velern 7 was a human fleet. Kelveth pulled up the human file for the 100th time. His forearms moved across the console, while his bioluminescent skin stayed a careful, controlled blue. Blue meant calm. Blue meant professional. Blue meant he was not feeling the strange sensation in his chest that had started when he first read about humanity. The file was thin. Humans had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. In galactic terms, they were infants. They should have been insignificant. They should have been a minor note in the records. A young species still learning their place in the vast darkness. But the file contained warnings. Every elder race that had encountered humans had added notes to the file. The Mithrani wrote in cold, precise language. The Veleth used poetry. The Korath, who feared nothing, had simply written, "Do not provoke them." Kelveth did not understand. How can a species so young inspire such caution? He had watched the recordings of human battles. He had seen their small ships and their fragile bodies. They died so easily. A single shot could end them. They could not regenerate like the Korath. They could not phase through matter like the Veleth. They were soft and breakable and temporary. And yet the warnings kept coming. The elder races kept watching. And now the Galactic Concord had sent Kelveth to observe humanity's first major engagement against a true threat. His mission was simple: watch, document, assess. The Concord needed to know if humans were worth recruiting as allies or too dangerous to approach. He had thought the question was ridiculous. Now, standing in his chamber and watching the human fleet gather below, he was not so certain. His console chimed. An incoming communication. He accepted it, and a human face appeared on his screen. She was small, even for a human. Her hair was dark and pulled back tight. Her eyes held something that Kelveth could not name. She smiled at him. "Observer Saranis," she said. "I'm Commander Yuki Tanaka of the UES Defiance. We got word you be watching our little dance with the Cathari. Want to come aboard? Better view from down here." Kelveth studied her. She was about to fight a battle she could not win. 400 Cathar against her 89 ships. The mathematics were simple. The outcome was certain. And she was smiling. "Commander Tanaka," he said carefully, "you understand the odds you face?" "Sure do." Her smile did not change. "Should be exciting." His skin flickered yellow for just a moment. Confusion. He forced it back to blue before she could notice. "I will join you," he said. "I wish to observe your cruise preparations." "Great. Shuttle Bay 3. See you soon." The screen went dark. Kelveth stood very still for a long moment. Then he gathered his recording equipment and made his way to his personal shuttle. The trip to the Defiance took only minutes. The ship was large for a human vessel, but small by galactic standards. Its hull was scarred from old battles. Someone had painted words near the airlock. The words said, "Still here." Commander Tanaka met him personally. She was even smaller in person, barely reaching the middle of his chest. She looked up at him without any sign of fear or awe, as if four-armed giants with glowing skin visited her ship every day. "Welcome aboard," she said. "Let me show you around before things get loud." She led him through the corridors of the Defiance. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans preparing. Some were checking weapons. Some were running diagnostics on ship systems. Some were simply sitting together, talking and laughing as if they were not about to die. He stopped walking. A group of humans had gathered in a common area. Music was playing. It was a strange, sad, beautiful sound that he did not recognize. Some of the humans were dancing. Others were embracing each other. One young man was writing something on a piece of paper, while a young woman read over his shoulder and wiped her eyes. "What are they doing?" Kelveth asked. Commander Tanaka stood beside him. Her smile had softened into something gentler. "Living," she said. "The battle starts in 2 hours. Some of them won't come back. They know that. So they're spending their time on what matters. Family, friends, love, the things worth fighting for." Kelveth watched the young man fold his paper and hand it to the young woman. She held it against her chest like something precious. They kissed. Then he picked up his weapon and walked toward his duty station, looking back once to wave. "This is illogical," Kelveth said. "They should be resting, conserving energy, reviewing tactical data." "Probably," Commander Tanaka agreed. "But that's not who we are. We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because some things matter more than winning. More than living, even." His skin was shifting colors again. Blue to yellow to something close to orange. He could not stop it. He could not understand what he was feeling. "You prepare for death as though preparing for celebration," he said. Commander Tanaka looked up at him. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears or might have been joy. He could not tell the difference. "Maybe we do," she said. "Or maybe we're celebrating life while we still have it. Same thing in the end." The music swelled. A human voice sang about love and loss and fighting against the dark. Kelveth stood in the corridor of a doomed ship, surrounded by a species that should have been terrified. And he felt something crack open inside his chest. He opened his recorder and spoke quietly, so that only the device could hear. "Personal observation," he said. "The humans prepare for battle. They sing, they dance. They hold each other and cry and laugh. They write letters to people they may never see again. They prepare for death as though preparing for celebration. I have observed 17 wars. I have never seen anything like this. I do not understand them. I do not understand them at all." He closed the recorder. The music played on. The humans kept dancing, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the ship, 400 Kethari vessels moved closer to Velern 7, carrying death in their bellies. The battle would begin soon. The Kethari emerged from subspace like a swarm of insects pouring from a broken nest. 400 vessels, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying thousands of soldiers bred only for war. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of death spreading across the stars. Kelveth stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched them come. His skin had gone pale, almost white. Fear. He had not felt fear in centuries, but he felt it now. The mathematics were simple. 89 human ships against 400 Kethari. This was not a battle. This was an execution. Commander Tanaka stood at the center of the bridge. She was calm. Her hands were steady on the rail in front of her. Around her, human officers worked at their stations, calling out numbers and coordinates and threat assessments. Their voices were tight but controlled. No one was crying. No one was running. They all knew what was coming, and they all stayed at their posts. "Open a channel," Tanaka said. "All ships." The communication officer nodded. "Channel open, Commander." Tanaka took a breath. When she spoke, her voice carried to every ship in the fleet, to every soldier and pilot and engineer who was about to fight and possibly die. This is Commander Tanaka. You all know what we're facing. You all know the numbers. 400 to 89. The odds aren't good. I'm not going to lie to you about that. She paused. On the screens around the bridge, Kelveth could see the faces of humans on other ships. They were listening. They were afraid. But they were not looking away. Behind us, Tanaka continued, there are 2 million people on Velen 7. Families, children, people who have never held a weapon in their lives. If we fall, the Kitheri will take them. You know what that means. You've seen the reports. You know what the Kitheri do to the worlds they conquer. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. Just for a moment. She did not try to hide it. I can't promise you victory. I can't promise you'll see your families again. But I can promise you this. If we stand together, if we fight together, we can make them bleed. We can show them that humans don't run. We can show them that some things are worth dying for. And maybe, just maybe, we can buy enough time for those people down there to survive. She straightened her shoulders. Her eyes were bright and hard. All ships. On my command, charge. Kelveth's skin flashed red. Shock, horror, disbelief. He stepped forward without meaning to. Commander, he said, surely you mean to take defensive positions. To use the planet's gravity well for tactical advantage. You cannot simply charge directly into their formation. Tanaka looked at him. She was smiling again, but it was a different smile now. Sharp, fierce, the smile of a predator. Watch us, she said. The human fleet surged forward. 89 ships accelerating at full power, driving straight into the heart of the Kethari swarm. They did not spread out. They did not try to circle around. They flew in a tight formation, a spear of steel and fire aimed at the enemy's throat. The Kethari opened fire. The first human ships began to die. Kelveth watched the destroyer take 3 direct hits and break apart, spilling bodies into the void. He watched the cruiser's engines explode, sending the ship spinning into darkness. He watched humans die by the hundreds, and still the fleet kept coming. Why? He whispered. Why did they not retreat? On the tactical display, he saw something that made no sense. A human destroyer, its hull torn open, its weapons gone, was accelerating toward a Kethari carrier. It was not trying to escape. It was aiming for the carrier's engine core. The destroyer hit at full speed. The carrier exploded. Both ships vanished in a ball of fire. The captain of that destroyer, Kelveth said. His voice was shaking. He could have ejected. He could have escaped. Could have, said a human officer nearby. Didn't. Kelveth turned to look at her. She was young. Tears were running down her face. But she was still working her console, still doing her job, still fighting. Why? He asked again. Because that carrier had enough firepower to kill 3 of our ships, she said. He saved his friends. That's what we do. On another screen, a squadron of human fighters was engaging Kethari interceptors. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. One by one, the human fighters were being destroyed. But they were not running. Even when their ships were crippled, even when their weapons were gone, they kept fighting. One pilot, her fighter little more than wreckage with an engine, flew directly into a Kethari bomber. They died together. Kelveth had studied war for 3,000 years. He had seen species fight with cold logic and careful calculation. He had seen species fight with mindless rage and animal instinct. He had never seen anything like this. The humans were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. And they did not seem to understand that these were different things. The battle raged for hours. The human fleet was being destroyed, ship by ship, life by life. But they were taking the Cathari with them. The enemy fleet was losing vessels at a rate that should have been impossible. For every human ship that fell, 2 or 3 Cathari ships went with it, and something strange was happening. The Cathari were hesitating. Kelveth had studied the Cathari. They conquered through overwhelming numbers and the certainty of their victory. They attacked weak prey and consumed them without mercy. They had never faced an enemy that ran toward them. They had never faced prey that bit back. On the tactical display, Kelveth watched a Cathari cruiser turn away from a human frigate. The frigate was damaged, barely functional, easy prey. But the cruiser was retreating. It had seen what humans did to their enemies, and it was afraid. "They're breaking," Tanaka said. Her voice was exhausted but triumphant. "The center of their formation is falling back." Kelveth looked at her. Her uniform was stained with blood from a wound on her arm. She had not stopped to treat it. She had not even seemed to notice it. "You are winning," he said. He could not believe the words, even as he spoke them. "Not yet," she said. "But we're not losing any more. And that's a start." She turned to her crew. Her voice rose, strong and clear despite her exhaustion. "All ships push forward. Don't let them regroup. Show them what happens when you threaten our people." The human fleet surged forward again. Damaged ships, wounded crews, exhausted soldiers. They should have been broken. They should have been destroyed. Instead, they were charging. Kelveth opened his recorder. His hands were trembling. His skin was cycling through colors he had never seen before, emotions he had no names for. "They are not trying to survive," he said into the device. "They are trying to win. These are not the same thing. Every species I have ever observed has understood that survival comes first. Retreat when the odds are bad. Preserve yourself for another day." The humans do not understand this. Or perhaps they understand it too well, and they have simply decided that some things matter more than survival. I do not know which possibility frightens me more. He closed the recorder. On the screens around him, the battle continued. Humans kept dying. Humans kept fighting. And the Cathari, for the first time in their history, kept falling back. The dropship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Velen 7. Kelveth gripped his seat with all 4 arms and tried not to think about how fragile human vehicles were. Around him, human soldiers sat in their crashed seats, checking their weapons and speaking quietly to each other. Some were praying. Some were showing pictures of their families to the soldiers beside them. One young woman was sleeping, her head resting on her rifle, as if being dropped into a war zone was nothing special. Commander Tanaka had insisted he come to the surface. The space battle was turning in humanity's favor, but the war would be won or lost on the ground. The Cathari had already landed thousands of soldiers. Velen 7 cities were burning, and the humans were going down to fight in the mud and the blood and the chaos. "You wanted to observe humans," Tanaka had told him before he boarded. "Then observe us where it matters." The dropship hit the ground hard. The doors slammed open. Hot air filled with smoke and the smell of burning rushed into the compartment. The soldiers were moving before Kelveth could even unbuckle his harness. Pouring out into the ruins of what had once been, he followed them. He had no weapon, no armor, only his recorder and his observer's credentials. He was supposed to stay back, stay safe, document from a distance. But something had changed inside him. He needed to see. He needed to understand. The city was called New Haven. It had been home to 500,000 people before the Cathari came. Now it was rubble and fire. Bodies lay in the streets. Some were Cathari soldiers, insectoid creatures with too many limbs and armor that glowed with stolen technology. But most of the bodies were civilians, men, women, children. The Cathari did not take prisoners. Kelveth stepped over a small body and felt something break inside him. His skin was shifting through colors too fast to track. His hands were shaking. "Stay close," said a voice beside him. He turned and saw a human soldier, young, with a kind face covered in dirt and blood. Her name tag said Chun. "It's bad out here, but we're going to make it better." She said it like she believed it. She said it like making things better was actually possible in this hell of fire and death. Kelveth did not understand how she could believe anything in a place like this. The fighting was everywhere. Human soldiers were engaging Cathari forces in the streets, in the buildings, in the rubble. But the humans were not alone. Mixed in with the soldiers were civilians. Valornians, the native people of this world, with their pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They were not soldiers. Many of them were holding weapons for the first time in their lives. But they were fighting alongside the humans, following their lead, trusting them. A Valornian woman stumbled past Kelveth, carrying a child in one arm and a rifle in the other. A human sergeant stopped her, took the rifle, adjusted something, handed it back. "Safety's off now," the sergeant said. "Point and shoot. Stay behind me." The woman nodded. She was terrified, but she followed the sergeant into the battle. Kelveth recorded everything. He recorded humans sharing their food with starving refugees. He recorded humans carrying wounded Valornians to medical stations. He recorded a human soldier giving his body armor to a civilian child, because the child was more afraid than he was, and then he saw Private Chun do something that he would never forget. A Cathari bombardment hit the street ahead. The explosion threw bodies in every direction. When the dust cleared, Kelveth saw a small figure lying in the open, 20 meters from any cover. A Valornian child, no more than 5 or 6 years old, bleeding and crying. The Cathari were still firing. The street was a killing ground. Anyone who went out there would die. Private Chun started running. Kelveth reached for her, tried to stop her. "You will be killed," he said. "The child is already dying." This is not logical. She did not even look at him. She just ran. The Cathari saw her. They opened fire. Kelveth watched a shot hit her shoulder. She stumbled but did not fall. Another shot hit her leg. She kept running, limping now, dragging herself forward through the dust and the blood. She reached the child. She threw herself over the small body, covering it with her own. More shots hit her. She did not move. She did not run. She stayed there, shielding that child, while her own blood pooled in the dirt beneath her. Human soldiers provided covering fire. Someone threw smoke grenades. A medic ran out and dragged both Chun and the child back to safety. When Kelveth reached them, Chun was conscious, barely, being treated for 4 gunshot wounds. "Why?" Kelveth asked her. His voice was broken. His skin was flickering white and blue and orange. "Why did you do that? You could have waited for covering fire. You could have let someone with armor go." "Why?" Chun looked up at him. Her face was pale from blood loss. Her eyes were clouded with pain. But she smiled. "Because she was scared," Chun said. "Because she was alone. Because I could help, so I had to help. That's all. That's everything." She passed out. The medics carried her away. The child survived. Kelveth stood in the ruins of New Haven and felt something he had not felt in 3,000 years. Tears. His species did not cry. They had evolved past such things long ago. But here, in this place of horror and hope, water was running down his face. During a lull in the fighting, he spoke with other human soldiers. He asked them why they fought the way they did. Their answers were different, but somehow all the same. A sergeant with gray hair and tired eyes said, "My grandmother survived the food riots on Earth. She walked through fire to feed her children. I can't let her down." A young pilot with burns on his hands said, "Someone has to stand up. If not me, then who? If not now, then when?" A medic bandaging a Valornian wound said, "I keep thinking about what happens to these people if we lose. I can't let that happen. I just can't." They were afraid. Kelveth could see it in their eyes, in the way their hands shook, in the way they flinched at every explosion. They were terrified, but their fear did not stop them. Their fear drove them forward. That was when he understood. Humans did not fight despite their fear. They fought because of it. They were afraid of dying, yes, but they were more afraid of letting others die. They were afraid of failure. They were afraid of what would happen to the innocent if they did not act. They had taken terror and turned it into fuel. The Cathari ground forces began retreating that evening. For the first time in their species' history, they were running from prey. They had come to Velon 7 expecting an easy conquest. They had found something else entirely. A dying human sergeant grabbed Kelveth's arm near the end of the day. His name was Webb. He had been shot saving a group of refugee children. His blood was soaking into the ground, and his eyes were already growing dim. "You're the observer," Webb whispered. "The alien. You're going to tell people about us." "Yes," Kelveth said. He held the man's hand with two of his own. "I will tell them." "Tell them this," Webb said. His grip tightened. His eyes found Kelveth's face. "Tell them we don't go quietly. Tell them we never go quietly. Tell them that when the darkness comes, humans light fires. And we keep those fires burning until there's nothing left of us to burn." He died with his eyes open, looking at the sky. Kelveth closed them gently. Then he sat in the ruins and wept, his skin glowing with colors his people had forgotten how to name. The battle was over. The Cathari were gone, their surviving ships fleeing into the darkness between stars. Velon 7 was saved. 2 million civilians would live to see another sunrise. By every measure, it was a victory. Kelveth could not feel it. He stood in the memorial hall of the Defiance, surrounded by holographic images of the dead. The faces floated in the air around him. Thousands of them, each one a life that had ended in the battle. They were young and old, male and female, from every human nation and culture. Some were smiling in their pictures. Some looked serious. One young man had been photographed mid-laugh, caught in a moment of joy that would never come again. Of 89 ships, 41 remained functional. Of 12,000 soldiers deployed to the ground, 4,300 had survived. The numbers were printed on a screen at the front of the hall, glowing softly in the dim light. Kelveth had documented many battles, but he had never truly understood what the numbers meant until now. Each number was a person. Each person had been loved. Commander Tanaka had not left her quarters since the battle ended. Kelveth had requested permission to speak with her several times, and each time he had been turned away. Finally, on the third day, her door opened. He found her sitting in darkness, staring at a holographic display. Names scrolled across it, endless names, the list of the dead. Her uniform was clean but wrinkled, as if she had slept in it. Her eyes were red and swollen. She did not look up when he entered. "Observer," she said. Her voice was rough. "You wanted to observe. Here I am. Observe." Kelveth stood still. He did not know what to say. For 3,000 years, he had watched others grieve from a distance, documenting their pain without feeling it. Now the pain was inside him, and he had no words for it. "I wanted to ask you a question," he said finally. "Ask. Was it worth it?" Tanaka did not answer for a long time. The names kept scrolling. Kelveth recognized some of them. The young man who had been writing a letter before the battle. The pilot who had flown her broken fighter into an enemy ship. Sergeant Webb, who had died holding Kelveth's hand. "It's never worth it," Tanaka said. The cost is never worth it. Every one of those names is a person who will never go home. They'll never see their families again. They'll never fall in love or have children or grow old. We took their futures and we spent them like currency, and we can never give that back. Her voice broke. She covered her face with her hands. But we pay it anyway, she whispered. Because the alternative is worse. Because 2 million people are alive right now who would be dead if we hadn't fought. Because some things are worth more than our own lives. Even though it hurts. Even though it breaks us. We pay it anyway. Kelva thought about the Mithrani, his own people. 3,000 years ago, they had faced a crisis that threatened to destroy their civilization. They had solved it by suppressing their emotions, by choosing logic over feeling. They had become calm and controlled and wise. They had also become cold. They had forgotten how to love, how to grieve, how to feel anything at all. Looking at Tanaka, at the tears running down her face, at the pain that was tearing her apart. Kelveth wondered if his people had made the right choice. The memorial service was held on the 4th day. Every surviving crew member attended. The hall was too small, so they opened the cargo bays and filled them with chairs and people standing shoulder to shoulder. Kelveth stood at the back and watched. Humans wept openly. They did not try to hide their tears or control their faces. They held each other, strangers and friends alike, sharing their grief the way they had shared everything else. A woman cried on the shoulder of a man she had never met. A father held his daughter and promised her that the people who died had gone somewhere peaceful. And then they began to tell stories. One by one, humans stood up and spoke about the dead. They told stories that were sad and stories that were funny. They described moments of courage and moments of foolishness. They remembered the people they had lost, not as heroes or martyrs, but as humans, complex and flawed and loved. A young soldier talked about his best friend, who had died saving him from a Keth Uri ambush. He was terrible at cards, the soldier said, laughing through his tears. He lost every game we ever played. But he never stopped trying. He never gave up on anything. That's who he was. That's who I'm going to remember. An engineer spoke about her captain, whose ship had been destroyed in the first minutes of the battle. She used to sing in the shower, the engineer said. Badly, really badly. We could hear her through the bulkheads. We complained about it all the time. I would give anything to hear that singing again. Kelveth recorded it all. The laughter and the tears. The joy and the grief. The way humans could hold both at the same time, could smile at a memory even as they wept for a loss. He did not understand how they did it. He did not understand how they survived feeling so much. After the service, he found Private Chun. She was in the medical bay, recovering from her wounds. She would live, the doctors said, though she would carry scars for the rest of her life. When Kelveth entered, she smiled at him. "Observer," she said, "you look terrible." He looked down at himself. His skin was dull, cycling slowly through muted colors. He felt exhausted in a way he had never experienced before. "I am processing," he said. "This has been difficult." "Yeah," Chum said. "It always is." He sat down beside her bed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I have a question," Kelveth said. "About your species. About the Mithrani. Your people?" "Yes. 3,000 years ago, we faced a great crisis. Our emotions were destroying us. So we chose to suppress them. We became logical, controlled, calm. We survived. But I am beginning to wonder what we lost." Chun looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were gentle. "That sounds lonely," she said. "How do you know what's worth fighting for if you can't feel it?" Kelveth had no answer. He sat with her in silence until the medical machines beeped softly and she fell asleep. Then he returned to his quarters and began to write his report. His hands trembled. His skin would not stay still. Colors he had not shown in centuries flickered across his body. Emotions he had no words for. Feelings he had been taught to suppress. He thought about Sergeant Webb, dying in the dirt with a smile on his face because he had saved the children. He thought about Commander Tanaka, breaking apart in her quarters, but still finding the strength to lead. He thought about Private Chun, running through gunfire to reach a child she had never met. He thought about what it meant to feel everything, all the time, and still choose to keep going. His report would take months to complete. There was so much to say, so much to explain. The Galactic Concord wanted to know if humans were dangerous. The answer was yes. The answer was also no. The answer was something far more complicated than any simple warning, but that would come later. For now, Kelveth sat in his quarters on a ship full of grieving humans, and he let himself feel their pain. It was terrible. It was beautiful. It was human. And for the first time in 3,000 years, he did not want it to stop. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Velen 7. The galaxy had changed in ways both large and small. The Cavari Dominion was retreating on all fronts, their commanders unable to understand why their soldiers now hesitated at the sight of human vessels. Other species were watching, waiting, trying to decide what this strange young race meant for the balance of power. And on a station at the center of known space, the Galactic Concord had gathered to hear a single observer's verdict. Kelveth Saranis stood before the Grand Chamber. 200 species were represented here, from beings of pure energy to creatures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. They had come from every corner of the galaxy, united by one question. What were humans? The chamber was silent as Kelveth walked to the central platform. His skin was cycling through slow, controlled colors. He had spent months preparing for this moment, writing reports and revising them, trying to find words for things that did not fit into words. Now all that preparation seemed inadequate. What he had witnessed could not be captured in clinical language and careful analysis. He would have to try. Anyway, I was sent to Velen 7 to observe humanity's first major engagement against a significant threat, he began. My mission was simple: watch, document, assess. The Concord wanted to know if humans were worth recruiting as allies or too dangerous to approach. He paused. On the screens around the chamber, images appeared. The human fleet charging into impossible odds. Soldiers fighting and dying in the streets of New Haven. Commander Tanaka addressing her crew before the battle. Private Chun running through gunfire to reach a wounded child. I have my answer, Kelveth said. But it is not a simple one. A Korath representative, a massive being covered in natural armor, leaned forward. Are they dangerous? He asked. His voice was deep and rumbling. That is all that matters. Are they a threat to the Concord? Kelveth met his eyes. Yes, he said. They are dangerous. I watched them charge into a battle they could not win, and they won it anyway. I watched them throw away their own lives to save strangers. I watched them fight until they had nothing left, and then find more to give. They are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Representatives exchanged worried glances. A Veleth counselor, a being of shifting light and shadow, spoke up. Then they should be contained, she said, before they become a threat to the stability of the galaxy. No, Kelveth said. The word rang out clearly, silencing the chamber. You misunderstand. Let me finish. He touched a control, and new images appeared. Humans sharing food with starving refugees. Human medics treating wounded Valornians. A human soldier giving his armor to a child. Commander Tanaka weeping over the names of her dead. Humans are dangerous, Kelveth continued. But not to us. Not to anyone who comes to them in peace. They are dangerous to tyrants. They are dangerous to conquerors. They are dangerous to anyone who threatens what they love. And they love so easily. They love their families and their friends. They love strangers they have never met. They love ideas and ideals and dreams that exist only in their hearts. And they will die to protect any of it. He thought of Sergeant Webb. Tell them we don't go quietly. Tell them we never go quietly. I spoke with many humans during my observation, Kelveth said. I asked them why they fought the way they did, why they charged into certain death, why they sacrificed themselves for people who were not their own species, not their own nation, not even their own world. Their answers were always different, but they were also always the same. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had lived for millennia, who had built empires and watched them fall, who had thought they understood everything the universe had to offer. They fight because they care, he said. They fight because they feel. They carry the weight of everyone they have ever lost, and they use that weight to push forward instead of letting it drag them down. They are afraid all the time, afraid of death and loss and failure, and they fight anyway. They have turned fear into fuel. They have turned grief into strength. They have looked at the darkness between the stars and decided to light fires. The chamber was silent. Kelveth took a breath. I have lived for 3,000 years. In that time, I have watched my own people become cold and distant. We suppressed our emotions because we thought they made us weak. We chose logic over feeling, calculation over passion. We survived, but I am no longer certain that we lived. He looked down at his hands. His skin was glowing with colors he had not shown since he was young, emotions that his people had forgotten how to name. Humans are not like us. They feel everything, all the time, and it hurts them. It breaks them. It drives them to terrible acts and incredible sacrifices. They are chaotic and unpredictable and impossibly stubborn. They are also kind and brave and beautiful in ways I did not know were possible. The oldest member of the Concord spoke. She was ancient even by galactic standards, a being who remembered when the Mithrani were young. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the chamber. What do you recommend, Observer Soranis? Kelveth stood very still. This was the moment. This was why he was here. Humanity should not be contained, he said. They should not be feared. They should be welcomed. Not because they are safe. They are not safe. Nothing that feels so deeply can ever be truly safe. But because the galaxy needs them. We have grown old and careful. We have forgotten what it means to fight for something more than survival. We have forgotten what it means to love. He looked up at the assembled representatives. Humans will make mistakes. They will start wars they should not start and fight battles they cannot win. They will be loud and messy and difficult. But they will also stand beside us when the darkness comes. They will fight for us when we have forgotten how to fight for ourselves. They will teach us to feel again, if we let them. He straightened his shoulders. His skin was bright now, glowing with colors that his ancestors would have been ashamed of. He did not care. I was sent to observe whether humanity should be feared, he said. Here is my answer. They should be feared by tyrants, by conquerors, by anyone who believes that might makes right. But for the rest of us, for the lost and the broken and the ones who have forgotten how to hope, humanity is not to be feared. They are to be loved. And perhaps, if we are brave enough, emulated. The chamber erupted into debate. Some representatives demanded human containment. Others argued for immediate alliance. The discussions would go on for months, Kelveth knew. Perhaps years. But the seed had been planted. The question had been asked. What were humans? The galaxy would spend a long time trying to answer. Kelveth left the chamber while the argument still raged. He returned to his quarters, small and simple, and sat down at his desk. A message was waiting for him. Two messages, actually. The first was from Commander Tanaka. The Defiance had been repaired and returned to active duty. She had been promoted to Admiral. She still visited the Memorial Hall every night, she wrote, but she was learning to carry the weight. She hoped he was well. She hoped he would visit someday. The second was from Private Chun. She had left the military and returned home to become a teacher. She sent pictures of her students, small children from a dozen different species, learning together in a classroom full of light. She was teaching them that the universe was vast and strange and full of wonders worth protecting. She hoped he was finding whatever he was looking for. Kelveth read both messages twice. Then he did something he had never done before. He did not write a report. He did not compose an official response. Instead, he wrote a letter. He wrote to Tanaka about the debates in the Grand Chamber and about his hope that the Concord would choose wisdom. He wrote to Chun about her students and about how the universe needed more teachers who believed in wonder. He wrote to the memory of Sergeant Webb, who had died holding his hand, whose name he would carry with him for the rest of his very long life. When he was finished, his skin was glowing with every color his people had ever known. He did not try to control it. He let the emotions flow through him, the grief and the joy and the hope and the fear. It hurt. It was beautiful. It was human. He opened his final log entry and spoke. This is Observer Kelveth Suranis, ending my documentation of the human species. I was sent to observe whether humanity should be feared. I have given my answer to the Concord. But I have another answer now, a personal one, that I will carry with me until I die. He paused. Outside his window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, humans were laughing and crying and fighting and loving. Somewhere out there, they were lighting fires. I have lived for 3,000 years, he said. I have seen wonders beyond counting and horrors beyond naming. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have stood apart from it all, observing, documenting, never touching and never touched. I thought that was wisdom. I thought that was strength. I was wrong. He smiled. It felt strange on his face. This expression his people had forgotten. But it felt right. The humans taught me something. They taught me that feeling is not weakness. They taught me that caring is not a flaw. They taught me that the things worth dying for are the same things worth living for. Love, hope, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. He closed his eyes.